If you're an expat and want to make the most of your vacation once you get there, I have something just for you.
Okay, so welcome to part 2 of the Expat Vacation series with Krisha Young. For those of you who did not catch part 1, Krisha Young is an unconventional health and lifestyle expert. And by that, I mean she is going to find a solution for you to live well, feel great, and have energy, and still have your glass of wine. Don't have to give it up. So she is an expert on a lot of things health and lifestyle, but today we're going to use her knowledge and find out how we can optimize our expat vacations. We talked about what to do before you go on the long haul flight, and today Krisha is here to shed light on what you can do once you land. So Krisha, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sunday. This is exciting and fun.
Okay, so listen, Krisha, I travel a lot with my family, and usually we're on the road for 18 to 24 hours. We're jet lagged, we're tired, and there are high expectations from our friends and family once we land to like have fun, party, do barbecues. And honestly, I have to be really honest, it takes me about 5 days to like get out of a blur. I really do feel like I'm in a blur because of jet lag and the exhaustion that I feel.
Yeah.
And just so you know, that is one thing I'd love to hear your tips on. And the other thing is, once you get out of the blur, you're invited to tons of family events where you're eating and drinking constantly. At the end, you're like, I feel kind of yucky. And all the lofty goals I had for exercising kind of get neutralized by all of that. So what can you share today that will help people like me and similar situations out there?
Right. Well, I think the first thing to do is to schedule in time when you first get there to acclimatize, like don't be too ambitious and make crazy plans on the first like 24 to 36 hours of arriving, especially if you're traveling with kids, because you're going to have them waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, shaking a box of cereal in your face. You know what I mean? So give yourself that time where maybe you have small plans here or there, but nothing like major, like a big family reunion or something like that that's going to require you to have more energy. And actually, you're going to want to have more energy. You're going to want to feel good going to these things, right? And if you're dragging your ass, you're not going to want to do, it's not going to feel good for you. So schedule, and as part of like scheduling your whole entire time while you're there, schedule in some breaks, and same thing when you get home too. And there's some things that you can do to help like kind of reset that sleep wake cycle. When traveling, I usually like to, if I'm going for a short period of time, I stick to my time zone. So even if that means I'm going to bed at like 7 o'clock local time, I don't care. And I'm waking up at 4. That's for like 3 or 4 days. But for longer term, I straight away, as soon as I get there, stay up as late as I possibly can, or whatever, depending on if you're flying east or west. Go to bed when the locals do, and try to wake up when the locals do. And know that just in the first few days, you're going to be all wonky and waking up at random hours in the night. But again, it's like,
I want like a secret recipe because that's hard. And I mean, I do try to do those. Is there anything that we can do? I know sunlight is good, exercise is good, but is there anything we can do nutritionally or something we can avoid, or is it just simply we have to accept that we're going to suffer for 3 or 4 days?
Well, I mean, it's part of just like, easing in and relaxing into the fact that you are going to have these things and not fighting it, because fighting it is what makes things worse sometimes. You can try taking something like melatonin. It is a supplement that you can take, like it comes in different milligrams. Just check with your doctor or your nutritionist or whatever before taking anything. But you can take that, and that helps reset the sleep-wake cycle. So it's definitely something that can help. And I've given it to my kids, but again, just check with your healthcare provider before, doling out sleep aids, even though it's totally natural. But also like just being super gentle on your body, being gentle on your digestion. So not going like crazy with the alcohol or crazy with the coffee, or, you know, gorging on like tons of different types of food as soon as you get there. You know, like give yourself some time to really acclimatize to the new place that you're in. And then once you're rested and feeling more energized, then you can go and party and do all those things.
So what can you do instead of, I mean, because I'm going to be really serious. I will gorge on coffee if I am tired. I know I'll probably have more coffee. I'm a 3-cup of coffee a day person, and maybe I'll get my 3 cups by noon then when I'm so tired. Is there something else we can do instead, or should we just abstain and know that it's going to be better for us?
No, you can have, you can have a green smoothie. If you can find, if you've got a blender where you are, or you can find a juice bar or a smoothie bar or like a Whole Foods or something like that around where you are, green smoothies are great at giving you energy in a pinch, right? And because of all the nutrients that it has in it, it's got lots of B vitamins, and B vitamins is what gives us energy. You hear people who are low in B12 and they have no energy, right? So it's those vitamins that are going to give us that shot to give us more energy for sure. So you can do like, have the coffee and then have a green drink, and then maybe have a coffee and then maybe another green drink, but also water as well. Like water is really hydrating and it'll help, especially after the flight. You're going to need a lot of water, and that will also help to wake up your cells and rejuvenate you. Any kind of breathing exercise, like getting some oxygen into your lungs, like again, like waking up those cells and bringing in that oxygen so that you feel more awake.
Okay.
Than you normally do. But and resting when you need to as well. Like if you're tired and you need to have a nap, then have a nap.
I mean, I recommend because if you have other family members around, like tandem, you take the kids, I'll nap, I'll take the kids, you nap, or hey grandma, you take the kids while we nap. So yeah, I think one of the things I say is to really if you're visiting family and friends, saying would you mind looking for 20 minutes, because then I can be totally a better person around you once I've slept. So what I'm taking away, like to reduce the 5-day fog, not just 3 coffees by noon, but maybe adding water and a green smoothie to reduce the coffee tempo. If you feel like, the big welcome drinks with your family on the first night, try to be a little bit conservative with that, and know that you can go out and have a silly night if once you're well rested, so it doesn't hit your system as hard. So what about, there was something else I wanted to ask you about. Oh, so a lot of times people take vacation as an opportunity to exercise more, because now they don't have the structure of work, they can go out. So what do you think about the people who say, yeah, when I'm on vacation, I'm going to exercise, 3 or 4 times a week, and use that during their vacation time to do it? What things they need to look out for?
I think that's great. I mean, I've done that myself. Like recently going to New York, I was like, oh, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do all these things. And I did. But then back home, it's a different story. But I think that's great. Like, I think any kind of movement or any sort of like impetus to get out there and do something physical is fantastic. And there's so many ways you can do it. Like you can just go for a walk, like depending on where you are. If it's nice and warm and sunny, then you can go for, a run or a walk or whatever outside. Or, there's so many programs available online that are totally free, that you can download or YouTube or watch or whatever, and do like a quick 20-minute something or other, just to, again, and that's going to help with your energy levels too, right? Or you can see if somebody where you're staying is a member of a local gym, see if they have like a day pass or something like that, or if there's a yoga studio nearby. Yoga, usually you can just drop in classes. You don't need a membership or anything to go there, right? So look around and see, is there a local Y or something like that you can go to and use the equipment and do what you need to do for half an hour or an hour, and keep up that physical activity, especially if you're used to working it when you're at home.
And I like that idea too, because one, if you're going home with friends and family and you think, oh, the locals, the people who live here go there, but why not? Why not do a quick pass? And if you travel abroad to a new culture, a new country, what a great way to meet locals, by going to a local who knows what, kickboxing or like you said, yoga. But I'm guessing you have to be careful not to overdo it if you sort of start with, too much motivation.
Yeah. And I mean, that advice is true even if you're at home.
Right.
Start as you mean to go on, and don't make it just like a 1 week thing. Like try to find something that you can then incorporate when you go back home as well, and be like, oh, I have a studio like this near home. Like when I get back home, I'll find ways in which to incorporate this into my lifestyle back at home as well.
Let's talk about overdoing it. So vacations, there's some sort of like decadence related to this idea of a vacation. People feel like, oh, I finally get to relax. I finally get to do this or that. And people can overdo it in two ways. One, foods that you haven't had access to in a year or year and a half, or foods you've never tried before, or maybe never get the chance to try again. And then there's the idea of overdoing it if you're like hanging out with your high school friends I haven't seen in 25 years. So tell us about how can you indulge on vacation, but not overdo it to where it'll have like a negative effect.
Right. Yeah. I understand this. I lived in England for 7 years, and every time, and I'm from Toronto, and every time I came back to Toronto, there were like my favorites, which I'm not going to tell you what they were. They were very good. I'm a reformed picky eater here. But yeah, I mean, totally. It's fine to, go for the Dairy Queen Blizzard if like that's your favorite sort of thing in the world. And you can't get it where you're living. You know what I mean? Like, of course, go and have that. But, it kind of starts to lose its appeal if you're having it like 3 or 4 times a day, every day. You know what I mean? So it's like, have it the one time, like indulge and really enjoy it when you're having it. Like don't sit there and like, oh, this is it's so making me so fat. It's so unhealthy for me. Like all of that connection between your mind and your body and what you're eating, it goes into your cells, and your cells are like, ugh, now this is a negative experience, right? But if you're like, oh my God, this is the best damn Blizzard I've ever had, and like really enjoy it. I love it. Like, yeah, just really enjoy it, whatever it is, whatever it is. Like, oh, I love this. I know I can't get it back at where I'm living. I'm just gonna like totally with reckless abandon, enjoy this food, and then that's it. And I find that even with my clients as we work, like they have their favorite foods that maybe they are eating a Blizzard every day. But as we start to bring in more and more healthy foods, when they go back to that Blizzard, they're like, nah, it's not even what I remember. You know what I mean? So you may even have that experience where you're like, yeah, this isn't what I remembered it to be, but whatever. And then to your question about like going out and like having a school reunion or something like that, again, like it's about how you plan the day of, right? So I've actually talked about this, like strategies, like hangover strategies and party strategies and stuff like that. Like how do you mitigate like a really horrible hangover the next day? And what you want to do is the day of is make sure that you're having like a lot of protein and a lot of water and some green drinks too, right? The magnesium and the B vitamins in the green drinks are going to help with, your liver to process the toxins that are kind of come in from the alcohol. The water hydrates you, and the protein keeps your blood sugar stable, right? So when you are having that booze, you're not going to be like, whoa, like off your face drunk after that first glass, right? Like it'll stabilize a bit. I mean, like, there's one thing about like wanting to have the drunkenness like on the night of, but this is more about the next day. You know what I mean? So if you don't have the time or the ability or whatever to indulge in like an entire day of hangover, or 3 days as it is, when you're older you get, then you want to do these things on the day of, and then the following morning, again, like have as clean and fresh a day as you possibly can in terms of like water and more green things like salads and broccoli and veggies and things like that, because it really is just going to help replenish what's lost from the toxins of the alcohol, right?
I think a new idea that people don't think about, like let's eat really well and take care of myself really well before I go out. So if I do have a mojito, I'm not off my chair after the first one, because I think by the time you get to be our age, it's not your intention, but you might go overboard or Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been great. So recapping some of the things we've talked about is with the exercise, if you're looking for novelty, try something in your area that's different, even bring it back home or keep your same routine. When it comes to indulging, really be present when you're eating it and make sure that you're doing it freely without any weird feelings about guilt or taking away from the enjoyment. And if you do think you're gonna maybe overindulge a little bit with your friends, if you go out with your family one evening, set the base of a really healthy day so that anything that you are consuming that might be less healthy is absorbed. You know, the head.
Yeah.
Great. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. One quick takeaway, if you could say one piece of advice for our people once they're on vacation, what would you say?
I think to keep your routine as much as possible. So hopefully everybody watching already has a pretty good, healthy routine, hopefully. So bring as much of that into your day-to-day life where you are as possible, you know, like, so try to go to bed, except on the nights that you are obviously have plans, but, you know, try to go to bed around the same time, wake up around the same time, you know what I mean? Because this also helps regulate your digestion. A lot of people get constipated for the first few days because everything's all over the place. Right? So you want to bring as much normalcy back to your body, and your body understands that routine, right? So I think doing that more than anything will help kind of like bring things, stabilize things. And then you have your night out and your visit here and your trip there or whatever. But, you know, on your days where you're not crazy, do as much as you normally would do at home in that same routine.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I will be on vacation while we're talking about this, so I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, you can do it.
I can't wait to talk to you on our third series where we're going to talk about how to beat the expat reentry blues when you make it back home. So thank you for joining us, Krisha. If you want to learn more about Krisha, you can find out about her in the description or in my newsletter, and check out my original article about how to make the best of expat vacations once you get there. Thank you, Krisha. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.